Okay, topic of the month, harnessing the power of Roth. Before we get started, as people are jumping on watching this, we've got a few little shameless commercials. If you don't know about our nonprofit website, fpfeaz.org, go visit it. It tells you a little bit about us and even has the recognition from David Schweikert on there. Kind of cool. We have full class schedule. You can sign up for any classes. 2026 is coming soon. We will get this updated right away. You can find the full class schedule and register there. We've got also on demand class of the month. We only keep one class on here at a time. You can find it on here. Last month was essential estate planning. And then we do have a series from the Social Security Administration. I was able to interview one of the higher ups over there and have a good series put together on that. So jump on fpfeaz.org and find all of our classes and the full schedule and all the great stuff on there. If you have not found our channel, we have a full channel on YouTube. We have over 300 videos on there and looks like over 13,000 subscribers now at this point. I create new videos every single week, so subscribe to the channel. There's all different types of topics that I can think of on there, and plenty of other fun little videos as well. So lots of great stuff to watch on there. I try to keep it all 10 to 20 minutes, so a much shorter form of education on there. And then certainly if you want to meet with me for any reason whatsoever, jump on sesweb.net. That's our company website, sesweb.net. And we've got appointments. You can schedule a free meet and greet with me if you'd like. We also have lots of resources on the education tab. I keep a recording of all the classes of a year on here. So we will be replacing this 2025 version of Harnessing the Power of Roth with this year. So the one we're watching right now. All right. So with that being said, again, that was sesweb.net. All right, so with that being said, let's jump into the topic of the month. This is a fantastic class. This hopefully gives you some insight. Some people worry, what's the government's reason for having Roth? It seems like a bad thing. People don't have to pay taxes on the money, but you're going to see very quickly why this is not going away. There is a reason this is out there, and it benefits, both sides when used properly. All right, so here we go. Foundation for Personal Financial Education is a nationwide nonprofit organization. The whole idea of this is to provide financial education without the sales and biases and all the gimmicks we see out there. So hopefully you find this to be a different atmosphere and come back for each new topic every single month. My background, I've been running the nonprofit for quite a long time. I've been doing this for about 20 years. The master's degree I have is from University of Arizona, focused in finance. I have the CFP, Certified Financial Planner from Pepperdine University, and I own a local family of companies that includes a wealth management firm and a tax firm. And I say local just because it's habit. I've got clients all over the world now. It's pretty fun. So we get to talk to people from all walks of life, which is pretty fantastic. Always happy to help out when and where I can. All right, legal disclaimer. Everything we talk about is for educational purposes only. None of this is direct financial advice, especially with Roth. It's very individualized advice because a lot of this is going to talk about taxation and things like that. That's where the rubber meets the road when it comes to Roth. So use this for educational purposes. Work with your CPAs, financial advisors. Don't really need attorneys with this topic, but CPAs and financial advisors to see how to implement it for you. All right. So lots to talk about. We're going to start with some basics about all Roth. Learn the rules, and then we're going to start talking about when to use Roth and when not to use Roth. This is going to help you see and understand. So how to invest in your Roth is the other side of this as well. So let's see if we can learn as much as we can about Roth. What is Roth? Well, Roth is individual retirement account. Yeah, it's an IRA, believe it or not. So it's a Roth IRA. And for most cases, I just call it Roth. It's the category of money that's going to be tax-free. And it was created back in 97 and went into effect the following year in 98. So it is the newest category of tax-advantaged money. Roth IRA is a type of tax-advantaged individual retirement account to which you can contribute after tax dollars towards your retirement. So notice here, IRA money is pre-tax money that we're saving, and it's towards our retirement because they won't let us touch it until we're 59 and a half. Well, Roth is going to have the same types of restrictions on these accounts as well. Contributions and earnings can grow tax-free. Okay, the contributions and earnings. So you already paid taxes on the contributions, but once it's in there, it's going to grow tax-free and can be withdrawn tax-free when certain conditions are met. So as long as we follow the rules, right, this is fantastic. All right, so what is Roth? Well, let's start with what most of us understand, our traditional 401k, our IRA. It's all lumped into this pre-tax savings category called IRA, individual retirement accounts. They can be your work-based plans, they can be self-employed plans, they can be a lot of different variations of it, but it's all pre-tax money that you're saving. So going in, when you put money in there, they're pulling it out of your paycheck before you pay taxes on it, or you're eliminating the taxation from your tax return on that part because they allow you to deduct the money that you're putting into an IRA or a 401k type plan. Okay, so the money going in here has never been taxed. Never been taxed. That's important. We get to then leave it in there and let it grow, and there's no taxation. It's now tax deferred. So the principal you didn't pay taxes on, and now all the growth you didn't pay taxes on. So guess what? At some point, you're going to have to pay taxes. So coming out, you're going to get taxed. So that's the idea of this pre-tax savings. So you think about this logically, and the whole idea is, well, in your prime savings and working years, you might be in higher tax brackets. So they're allowing you to avoid that taxation and pay taxes on it later in life, hopefully when you're in lower taxation. Makes sense, right? So now we talk about after-tax money. This is your trust money, brokerage money. Everybody calls it something different. It is non-qualified money, money that has already been earned and taxed. The principal of this money was earned on paychecks or profits that you paid taxes on. So this money, you've already paid taxes on the principal. You go invest this money and you're going to get taxed on the growth. So not only have you been taxed on the principal, but now every time you grow, when you earn that growth, you're getting taxed, whether it's dividends or capital gains or interest, whatever this growth form is coming in, you're getting taxed on it. And then when you cash it out, so for instance, you buy stocks and then you sell those stocks, you get taxed on those capital gains as they're coming out. So you're taxed on every step of the way. You can control it if you know what you're doing, but you really get taxed all along the way. So this after tax, it looks terrible, but let's be honest. Ultimately, you are going to pay taxes on all the growth and the principal. So it's not like you're necessarily getting taxed more. It's just getting taxed all along the way instead of all at the end. Roth is a great diversification from this because it's the polar opposite of your traditional IRA. So now think about Roth as this perfect diversification. We now have 3 different types of money we can save. Money that we didn't pay taxes on, money that we did pay taxes on, and we're going to pay taxes all along the way on. And now Roth, we're going to pay taxes on it up front, but we're never going to pay taxes again. All the growth is tax-free, and when we take money out, it's tax-free. So we now have a situation where we can choose to save and not pay taxes now and choose to pay taxes later. We can pay taxes now and along the way, or we can pay taxes now and never again. So those are our choices. We now have one of each choice There's not really anything in between any of this. You've got three choices, three different categories of money, and this really kind of helps you understand the concept of these three different tax categories. When I'm earning money and growing money and trying to save money, I can choose to save it pre-tax, after tax, or Roth. And that's my choice. So now, what do we do with this? Well, I want people to understand why we have Roth out there so you have a little more confidence that it's not just going to up and disappear someday. It is a very selfish reason from our government to have Roth. They are incentivized to have Roth. They are obnoxious, and it's hard to find an exact number. It's somewhere around $7, $8, $9 trillion in 401k money, and another 13 plus trillion in IRA money. Right? So this is all money that has been saved and never been taxed. So why not give the incentive to pay taxes on it? I want my money now. So as the government looks at it, it's the incentive for people to go pay taxes on here. And because our tax code is so difficult to understand, the average person out there doesn't understand it, and they make lots of mistakes. They choose to pay taxes in their high tax or years, or they arbitrarily take 100,000 and do a Roth conversion or things like that. When you make mistakes in this whole concept of converting pre-tax money to Roth money, it's because of taxation. Our government wants you to pay high taxes. And so when I hear younger people in their prime working years, when I say younger, 20, 30, 40, if you're 20 and you're in low earning years, use Roth all that you can. But certainly if you're in your prime earning years, typically your 40s and 50s, 60s, everybody's a little different when they peak in their career. The reality is you should not be choosing to pay taxes on this money. Defer, defer, defer. But it's such an incentive to have money in Roth, and everybody seems mystified about the fact that, hey, I'll just bite the bullet now, get it in Roth, and now it'll compound its growth from here until eternity tax-free, and they think that's better than pre-tax. Also compounding its growth and never paying taxes on it until later in life when you actually need it and you start pulling it out. So we're going to go through this. The government wants this out there because they want the incentive for people to pay taxes on money that's never been taxed. And they want you to make mistakes. That's why our tax codes are so difficult to understand. So Roth is wonderful. Let's spread the word, and more people will make mistakes and pay high taxes just to get money into Roth. That's really what's going on out there. That is the big incentive, and the IRS has the actual numbers on how that's working. So let's talk about the rules. We need to learn the rules so we know how to make better decisions on this. Contributions can be withdrawn at any time for any reason. So they look at it this way. It's different than IRA. Contributions into an IRA have never been taxed. You had to qualify to put money into that status. You can't touch that money till 59 and a half. Whereas Roth, you paid taxes on the contributions, the principal of the money that you're putting in there. You already paid taxes on it. They're not going to penalize you if you want to reach back in and take that out. So the actual principal of the money that you put in there, sure, you can turn around and take it right back out. That's not a problem. There's no rules on 5 years or anything. The actual principal contributions, it's the earnings. Earnings can be withdrawn without penalties or taxes as long as you are 59 and a half or older and have owned a Roth account for at least 5 years. A Roth account. You can have 10 Roth accounts. You can have an account that you opened 5 years ago and just opened a new one last year. As long as you've had a Roth account open for 5 years, you can start pulling out the earnings. Again, the principle of what you put in there could certainly come out if you needed it in an emergency. The 5-year clock starts ticking on that first contribution or conversion. The first dollar that goes into Roth, that's when it starts ticking there. Let's see. Yep. Thus, the clock rule also applies to conversions for traditional IRA to Roth IRA. So younger than 59 and a half, earnings are subject to taxes and penalties. You may be able to avoid those if you're a first-time home purchaser or permanently disabled. So here's the thing. 59 and a half is still an important time. You are allowed to take the earnings out after 5 years, but you're going to get taxed on them. It wasn't a benefit anymore unless you have one of those exceptions. So you really want to be over 59 and a half, just like your IRA, your traditional IRA rules, to take those earnings out. So if you're going to do Roth, yes, if you really needed it, you can pull the principal out, but don't touch those earnings until after 5 years and 59 and a half. And very important there. So it's actually pretty easy to make Roth tax-free, right? Just follow those rules. Get over 59 and a half. Make sure you've had a Roth, your first Roth money, for at least 5 years. That's it. That's all you got to do. Okay. Now, are you eligible to contribute? Well, that's a whole new ball of wax. So IRA money is a little different rules, whereas Roth money, you have to follow very strict rules. Two things determine whether you can contribute. And in this case, there's a difference between contributing and converting. So contributing is you just taking some dollars and putting it into your Roth account. Converting is taking IRA money and changing it to Roth. Okay, so contributing, income, and your tax filing status, meaning single or married, really. I mean, there's lots of other variations, but it's far and few between who that applies to. You're either filing as a single tax return or a married tax return, unless you're an outlier. Okay, so married and single tax return, well, they have income qualifying. Okay, income ranges for 2026, you can have the full deposit into Roth if you're married, if your total income is under 242, single is 153. So they're pretty generous on this. They allow you to contribute. The next thing is only earned income can be contributed. Okay, that's self-employed profits or W-2 wages. So I know you earned your pension. I know you earned your Social Security. That's not considered earned income in the eyes of the IRS when it comes to depositing into these types of accounts. It has to be profits from self-employment or W-2 wages. It's that simple. You can be self-employed, but if you don't show a profit, you can't contribute. All right. Married couples can contribute to both Roth accounts, even if only one works. So I've run into this scenario quite often. One person in retirement might be holding a part-time job as a golf pro or something, you know, running around a marshal on the golf course, making, let's just say $10,000. Well, you could put $5,000 into each account if you wanted to. Absolutely. You can, a joint tax return, they don't care where the income comes from, as long as there was income. W-2 income or profit from self-employment, you can contribute to anybody on that tax return. $7,500 is the maximum for 2026, actually. I just missed that 25 right there. So the maximum annual contribution, it went up $500 this year. It was $7,000 in 2025. Now it's $7,500 in 2026. If you are over 50, you can now contribute $8,600. Okay. Contributions to Roth can be made through the deadline. Well, let's do it like this. You can contribute to your Roth or your IRA, for this matter, up until you file your tax return, because you have to tell them that you did it, essentially. So you can go into the next year. So for 2025's deposit, you could technically deposit it until April 15th of the following year, 2026. All right, hopefully that makes sense. $7,500 if you're under 50, $8,600 if you're over 50. No required distributions. It has been brought up, gets squashed real quick. There's not too many reasons to now that we have the inherited rules. When they inherit, when your heirs inherit this money, they're going to have all this money out in 10 years. So there is an end date. The whole idea of required distributions is very simple. They just don't want this money lasting forever. Okay. So you want to leave the burden of your IRA to your heirs? You can. You still got to take your required distributions out. Well, there's no burden. It's tax-free to your heirs, and it's tax-free for 10 years of their life. So if anything, we keep pushing our required distributions out. At some point, they might just go away because we've already put an end date to these accounts. They don't want them lasting for generations. No age restrictions. If you think you're too old for Roth, you're wrong. There is no such thing. Your situation may not call for Roth, but you're never too old for Roth. That doesn't make sense because, again, your heirs are going to be able to take advantage of this for 10 years. So there's plenty of time to grow this money tax-free and take advantage of it. Converting IRA to Roth is unlimited and unrestricted. So depositing into Roth has lots of restrictions. You can only put, $7,500 in there, or $8,600 if you're over 50. But converting, if you already qualified to get money into IRA, here's the government's incentive. Hey, pay taxes on it now, and then you'll never pay taxes on it again. Sounds wonderful, right? So they keep it unlimited and unrestricted. They want people to make mistakes. IRA required minimum distribution cannot be converted to Roth. If you are forced to take money out in the form of a required minimum distribution, which I do a whole class on, you cannot go deposit that money in a Roth. You can take your required distribution and then go convert more money, but you can't convert your required distribution to Roth. Roth 401k has a little bit different rules, no income restrictions. So that's awesome. And that's why most employers now offer the Roth 401k option. So you have the traditional pre-tax and now the Roth option. And the government really wanted them to do this, so they've regulated it in. They want that option because they want people in their prime working years paying the highest taxation of their life to make the wrong decision and put the money into Roth. Pay taxes now. I want your tax money now is what they're saying. So no income restrictions. And you can put a lot more money in there. For 2026, you can put $24,500. And if you're over from 50, they messed this up, made it even more difficult now too. If you're from 59 to or 50 to 59, they give you an extra catch up for 32,500, and now 60 to 63, tiny little window, you can even put 35,750 in there. Well, compared to the 7,500 you can deposit in a regular Roth account, this is astronomical. So if you have the opportunity to put money in and you're in lower tax brackets, you take advantage of this Roth. Absolutely, unequivocally. But if you're in lower tax brackets, the ability to save $35,000 is usually not there. So it's a little bit strange. So, but you have to remember, you're choosing to pay taxes now on the amount of money, as opposed to later. So diversifying is always a good thing. I love seeing young people in their early careers not paying high taxes, taking advantage of this without question. It's wonderful. So now let's get to the meat of this. When should we be using Roth? Right? This is what we need to understand. So let's talk about taxation. Okay. This is a single person's tax bracket here for 2026 and a married tax bracket over here. I've built in the standard deduction. So the straight standard deduction for 2026 for a single person is $16,100. That means the first $16,100 of your income is not taxable. It's taxed at zero because that's what a standard deduction is. You could certainly itemize, but they've really hampered our ability to itemize. And this really does actually simplify how taxation works. If we all know how much we get to deduct, which is the standard deduction, then it makes us a much easier calculation. Sometimes you might itemize in crazy years with crazy situations, but the vast majority of people try to itemize. They don't have enough to cover the standard deduction, so they just automatically get the standard deduction. So then from 16 to 28, you're taxed at 10. Not all of it, not all 28. From 16 to 28, you pay 10. For married people, from 32 to 57. Okay? So, and I know I'm hiding a little bit of these numbers, but they're getting real big there. So here's the thing. We have to know that we're filling one bucket at a time. If I have $66,501 as a single person, I'm not paying 22% on all of it. I'm paying 22% on $1. So from 66.5 to 121, I pay 22%. As a married couple, 133 to 243. That is taxed at 22%. Okay, that's a 10% jump in taxation. For some people, they live their entire life at 10 and 12% taxation. And the vast majority of this world knows that that's considered low taxation. And when I say the world, I'm not joking. The entire world looks at 10 and 12% taxation and says, wow, you're lucky. And that includes pretty much everybody in the United States. If we only had to pay 10 and 12% taxation, I'd be ecstatic and happy and wonderful and content. I have no problem paying 10 and 12% taxation. Most of the world is jealous of anybody doing that. And if you think about it, I mean, as a married couple, that's $133,000. So the reason that our tax brackets look like this and have looked like this for an extremely long time, we've always had a big jump here, is because this is considered low-income family and retiree tax brackets. That's really what this whole idea is. So if you're making $66,000 or less as a single person or married couple at 133 or less, just know you're in low taxation. The choice of paying taxes, hey, save in Roth. You're paying low amount of taxation. You're losing a small portion of the investable dollars to then categorize it and make it tax-free forever, right? Now, for some people, I call this the gray area. 22 and 24, I know lots of people, obviously being a wealth manager, I work with pretty much all walks of life, but I have a lot of clients with lots of money and great income and all those wonderful things too. And a lot of people consider 22 and 24% low taxation. These are typically people that spent most of their life in the 30s. In their prime working years. So the idea of this, maybe they got a big pension, they're heading off into retirement. I've actually seen school teachers that are in the 22% in their retirement because they stayed in their career the entire time. They were diligent savers, and the husband and wife both have nice pensions. Plus, they're getting Social Security. And so they have no way to not pay 22% because between their pensions and their Social Security, it's a married couple making over $133,000. And then the savings they had was all pre-tax IRA money, and they're going to hit required distributions, and it's going to push them pretty high up into this 22, 24% tax bracket. And these are just average everyday people. You don't have to be wealthy, hit it rich, win the lottery to be in these tax brackets. If you work the same career and it was a pension track, you're going to get a nice big pension work for the government. There's a lot of pension jobs. I've seen kindergarten teachers out of Chicago getting paid over 10 grand a month as single people, just as pensions. So the reality is some people, 22 and 24, this is low taxation. Some people, it's high taxation. If you spend your entire life at 10 and 12, under 66, under 30, 133 as a married couple, then this 22% we want to avoid. Well, this is your hint. We have the choice of saving via IRA or Roth. If 22% taxation is high, and you're going to spend most of your life in 10 and 12, you can avoid this by choosing to save via IRA, traditional pre-tax. Whereas if you're in these and you consider 22 low, you can save in Roth there. It'll help you avoid 30s later. Or you're always going to be in the 20s. So, yeah, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I'd rather have it tax deferred or in pre-tax, or I can choose Roth. You can choose either way. But the fact is you have to understand you have that choice. Because all things being equal, it's the taxes you're going to pay on the money. And you can say, hey, it's going to sit there and compound forever tax-free. Well, that's wonderful, but it also compounds forever tax-free in your IRA. Okay? And if you put it into IRA when you're in your 30s or 24% tax brackets and pull it out at 10% or 12% tax brackets, you're saving a big chunk of money. So for IRA, how much did you pay tax or avoid taxation when you put the money in there? So when you're putting in, were you in higher taxation? And now when you're pulling out, were you in lower taxation? Roth is the opposite. When you're putting in, were you in lower taxation? When you were pulling out, were you in higher taxation? That's how you win. IRA, you want to put in traditional IRA when you're in higher taxation and you want to pull out at lower taxation. Roth, you want to put in when you're in lower taxation and you want to pull out when you're in higher taxation. It's that simple. That's your mantra. That's it. Okay? So reasons, choosing and controlling the tax rate you pay on your IRA savings. We talk about traditional IRA in a Roth class because the vast majority of Roth money comes from your IRA. It's just that simple. And this is one of the absolute most proactive, real reasons to have Roth. The day you retire, you typically make less money. I have a handful of clients that are actually making more money in retirement than they were in their prime working years. And again, it's usually those pensions and things like that. So, but the reality is the vast majority of people when they're in their working years are in higher tax brackets and then in retirement in lower tax brackets. You need to be proactive the day you retire for the most part. I have a lot of people that step down. They don't completely retire. They just back off. They switch to consulting and work only when they want to. You're still making a lot less money, and you may have these opportunities to get money out of your IRA at lower tax rate. Remember, the reason you put money into IRA was to avoid high taxation. So when you're in low taxation, this is the part you forget, and this is where advisors should be earning their keep. But the vast majority of advisors, you're just a number on their on their chart. Planning is different when you retire. There's so much that can be done to create more efficiencies. You have to remember that you save that pre-tax IRA money at high tax rates. Now your goal is, how do I get it out at the lowest tax rates possible? If you don't need the money to spend, then you can be doing these Roth conversions. Hey, I got another 10,000 room in my 12% tax bracket. I'm going to choose to take that 10,000 out and put it in my Roth account and pay taxes on it, which I'll illustrate coming up. Avoid or reduce required distributions. So many people are retiring right now with mountains of pre-tax IRA money. They saved in their 401k their entire career. They have millions of dollars in their IRA now. You have to be proactive. The less IRA money you have, the more you're going to control taxation, the lower your required distribution is. This all helps. You have to be proactive. Hedge against higher taxes. How many people think we're going to have higher taxes in the future? Have you seen our national debt? Now, historically, we don't typically raise taxation because the politicians in office will all get fired. So there's other taxes they like raising, not the ones we all look at. So, well, I could argue probably not going to see higher taxes. We'll probably just see inflation to make the debt go away. Avoiding IRMAA. Anybody know what IRMAA is? I made a video on my YouTube channel on the shadow tax. It's IRMAA. It's an adjustment. It's a wealth tax is what it really is. It's an adjustment to your Medicare premiums. The more money you make, the higher your Medicare premiums are. So when you do Roth conversions, we have to take that into consideration because you're going to have a whole year of higher Medicare premiums if you do too much. So you have to be very careful about that. And some people that don't do anything, they're the ostrich putting their head in the sand and they're not proactive. They don't have an advisor paying attention. All these problems, all of a sudden their required minimum distributions come out of their IRA and they start seeing their Medicare premiums go from $200 to $300 to $500 a month. And when it's a married couple, that's times 2. Even though one person may have made the mistake or had the big IRA, you both have to pay it. IRMAA is a thorn in our side. It's not fair, but it's avoidable. Pay attention. Have good advisors that understand what they're doing. Reduce taxes passed to heirs. Okay? Reasons to do Roth. Roth is unequivocally your heirs' favorite money. They get to receive it tax-free, and then they get to keep it and let it grow tax-free for 10 years. It is by far the best category of money. It's way better than life insurance that's tax-free because they get to keep it and let it grow for 10 more years after you pass. So Roth is fantastic. If you're trying to give your heirs a wonderful gift, Roth is their favorite by far. Increased control over taxation in retirement. I always tell people, it's always great to have IRA, Roth, and after tax in retirement because we can be a lot more flexible from a taxation standpoint. Managing taxation in retirement is just that. It's managing. It's not a trick. It's not a do this and you'll pay less taxes. No, you have to have the ability. If you go into retirement with big pension and Social Security and all IRA money, there's no wand that somebody could wave to fix your problem. In order to manage taxation, we need to have choices that will help us manage that. Then take advantage of down markets or positions. Look, the pandemic was wonderful. It's a great example of somebody really paying attention, taking advantage of Roth. Think about it like this. You have a mutual fund, let's just say an S&P 500 index fund in your IRA. And the value of it was way up here in 2000. And by March of 2000, it was way down here. You still have the same amount of shares. It was just worth a lot less. And because it took that huge hit, cut 40% of the value out of there, you got aggressive and said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and convert this smaller dollar amount, same shares, smaller dollar amount over to Roth. And I'm going to bite the bullet and pay those taxes. And then the year that followed, it not only made back that 40%, but it rocketed. It went up 80%. And now I pay taxes on a much smaller dollar amount, and it's worth way up here, and it's all Roth now. Okay? It's important that we understand that if we're being aggressive and proactive, we're paying attention. When there's a big pullback in the stock market, it's a great opportunity to move those positions over to Roth. Now, if you're in the 30+% tax brackets, I'm typically not going to recommend it because you're choosing to pay that unless in retirement, you're also going to be in those 30% tax brackets. But if you're in 30% tax brackets now and you're going to be in 12 in retirement, there's no reason to pay 30%. Let's get it out at 12, right? But if you're in a situation to take advantage of a down market, it's great. It's a very powerful proposition. So these are all great reasons to use Roth. It's controlling that taxation. Okay, so let's figure out how we can do this at a very basic level. Everybody can do this, just addition and subtraction. It's real simple. Okay, so in 2026, if you're a married couple, we're going to start with 100,000. Single is 50,000. Okay, that on our IRS tax brackets shows that's the top of the 12% tax bracket. Okay, now we got a lot of things to add to that. Remember, I added in the standard deduction. So let's add those standard deductions in there. But now we have some new deductions that we can add to if you're over 65. So standard deduction, 32,000, 16,000 over here. We have this cool new senior deduction, another 6,000 each. If you're both over 65 and you meet the income requirements, don't forget there's income requirements on this new senior deduction, you get an extra 6,000 each. And then you have the standard blind and 65, no qualifications, an extra $1,650 each for married couples, $2,050 if you are a single person. So the grand total, if you are over 65, you meet the income requirements for the new senior deduction. Look how big these brackets have become. Meaning you're going to pay 12% or less taxation if you're a married couple and you meet all of the standards for the 65 plus deductions, all that stuff. $148,000 before you have to worry about paying higher taxation, 74 for a single person. Okay, so again, this is with the new senior deduction being over 65. Then we take that dollar, 148 married, 74 single, okay, over 65, meeting the income requirements. I've got videos on the new senior deduction and all that stuff. You're only going to get taxed on 85% of your Social Security at most, okay? It's a very sensitive part of our tax return. You go from zero taxation on Social Security to 85% taxation on your Social Security, and then you say, hey, I thought I wasn't supposed to get taxed on my Social Security anymore. Yeah, that's complete marketing distortion of the truth. The standard deductions render most people's Social Security not really technically taxed. Well, we've always had this. You're right. We always had the standard deduction. So nothing new really changed other than some people get that new senior tax bonus deduction. So no, we got a great sales job on that one. So yes, 85% of your Social Security is still taxable income. Pension income's all taxable income. Interest income, subtract. See, all we're doing is we're starting with the top of our 12% tax bracket. So if you don't qualify for the senior deduction, you just start with a smaller number. You don't get all those free deductions off of there. And then we subtract any other form of income, okay? What we have left is how much we can withdraw from IRA and convert to Roth if we want to. So imagine it like this. Let's say you're a married couple over 65, qualifying for all the deductions, and you had $100,000 worth of income. I would fairly confidently tell you, obviously looking at your situation very specifically, say it's a no-brainer. Take $48,000 from your IRA and put it in Roth, and you're only going to pay 12%. It really is that simple. Now, there's a lot of other things we have to take into consideration, but the reality is we start at 10,000 feet. It makes sense so far, unless we drill down to details that are minute and things like that. So for most people, that's what we do every single year. Same thing for single. Let's say you had 60,000 this year for income. Well, to go take $14,000 from your IRA and move it into your Roth, and you're only paying 12%. And for most people, choosing to pay 12% is fantastic, because when you were in your working years saving that money, you were probably in the 20+% tax brackets. So instead of paying 20+ per tax brackets, you're now only paying 12%. That was the whole purpose of saving that money in the pre-tax status, was to then pull it out at lower taxation. This is why we're proactive. We do this so we take advantage of Roth by putting it in at low taxation. We don't want to put into Roth at high taxation. We want to take advantage of low taxation. That's the idea. So for most people, as they head off into retirement, this is the math we're doing. The vast majority of people, their retirement income for a married couple is typically less than $148,000, typically less than $74,000 single. Certainly lots of people are over these incomes, and then it becomes a different decision, but it's almost a no-brainer. The only time that I will black and white say it's not a no-brainer is if by doing the Roth conversion, we're causing the taxation of Social Security, because your Social Security up to 85% of it will be taxable. Some people, none of their Social Security is taxable. And then if you do a Roth conversion, it becomes taxable. That's essentially double taxation. So those are the scenarios that I would say typically, no, don't do a Roth conversion. You'll end up paying taxes on your Social Security. But again, the vast majority of people are paying taxes on their Social Security, and you want to take advantage of that 12% tax bracket. You want to fill it up. So you go to the maximum dollars you can have before you start paying 22. You subtract out all your income for the year and you convert the rest to Roth. Hope that makes sense. So I've taken these tax brackets. This is just the standard deduction. If you are 65 plus, you can add the extra $6,000 each. Plus you got the little blind /65 that you can add to it as well. But these are your tax bracket maximums, 133. So this is without the extra deductions for being over 65. So you've got the 133 for married. You go back to that previous page, you see what the being over 65 is a big jump, 133 to 148. It's a big difference, okay? So 133 if you don't qualify for the extra deductions, 66 if you don't qualify as a single person. Then we get into the 22s, maximum. Some people want to fill their 22s. You got to start being careful of IRMAA. You make too much money, you're going to have to pay more on your Medicare premiums. You will start seeing that ratchet up real quick in the 20% tax brackets. Okay. Red means defer, defer, defer. Let your heirs pay taxes. That's what I say to people in the 30% tax brackets. 20%, gray area. We got to figure out what's right for you. Here's a great example. What if you have 20 kids? You got $1 million IRA and 20 kids, will chunk out little pieces and make them pay taxes on it. They're probably going to pay less taxes than you, especially if you're single and all 20 of those heirs are married. They're going to pay little to no taxation where you're going to pay high taxation. So there's always some logical reasons for this, which takes us to why not to use Roth, right? Well, let's go back to these tax brackets. It's all about the tax brackets. So I look at this and it's real simple. Again, IRA, to take advantage of pre-tax IRA money, you put in at high taxation and you take out at low taxation. For Roth, you put in at low taxation and you take out at high taxation. So when do we not want to do Roth? Well, you want to do it in low taxation. So you pay taxes when you're in the 10 and 12. Yes, we do Roth. For some people, this is the gray area, 22 and 24%. Some people should do Roth, some people shouldn't do Roth, but certainly there you are in your 30% tax brackets. You should not be doing Roth. I don't care if you're young, I don't care if you're old, I don't care anything. If you're in the 30+% tax brackets, there's no reason for you to choose to pay taxes on money just to get it into Roth status. It does not make sense. You or your heirs, somebody will pay less taxation somewhere later in life. All right, so reasons. You are in higher taxation currently with lower taxation in the future. If you're in high taxation now, and you will always be in high taxation, and your heirs will always be in high taxation, you want to do Roth, go for it. But if you're in high taxation now, and you will be in lower taxation later in life, logically, because when you retire, you don't have the amount of income you have coming in when you're in your working years. Again, it's an anomaly when people make more in retirement than they did in their working years. It's an anomaly. It doesn't happen that often. And it's usually because of a teacher or things like where they were diligent and working in a career path that had a great pension. They didn't make huge income because they were sacrificing that for a fantastic pension in retirement. Pensions are wonderful. You may not get paid as much in your working years, but you're going to really enjoy those retirement years. So you're in higher taxation currently with lower taxation in the future. That's when you're going to take money and put it into traditional IRA in the higher taxation and then choose to pull it out later at lower taxation. That's when we use IRA, not Roth. I'm in high taxation now. We use traditional IRA, not Roth. You don't need your required distribution. You are charitable and will leave IRA savings to charities. When you give your IRA money to charities, nobody pays taxes. Why on earth would you choose to pay taxes to put it in Roth when you don't really have heirs and you're just giving it all to charities? IRA is Roth to charities. There's absolutely no reason. So I have plenty of clients that just give their money to charities. They don't have heirs. They're not leaving the IRA to heirs. Their required minimum distribution comes, they send it straight to charities. Nobody pays taxes on it. It's wonderful. If that's what you're doing with your IRA, don't ask me about Roth. There's no reason to do Roth at all. Why choose to pay taxes? That you're making the IRS your charity. Thank you for paying more than your fair share. You are in higher taxation than your heirs will be. Okay, we do have to think about the life of your Roth money, the life of your pre-tax IRA money. Again, I look at this and say, well, wait a second, you're a single person with millions of dollars in IRA money, and you've got 5 kids, all of which are married, and they are in low income earning careers, not knocking it off the planet. They're going to pay way less taxation on this money, even though they have to take it out over 10 years. They're still going to pay less taxation than you. It's really that simple. So we do have to think about that. Consider how many heirs and what their wealth and income looks like every time we have these conversations, especially in the gray area. This is where the gray area starts tipping one way or the other, the 20s, the 20% tax bracket. You're 59 and a half and you're under 59 and a half and you don't have the outside cash to pay taxes on the conversion. Let me explain this because I get a lot of questions about this one. Let's say I'm 50. I'm actually 51, but let's say I'm 50. It's just easier. And I want to do a Roth conversion. I don't understand taxation. I just want to do a Roth conversion because somebody told me it was a really good idea. So I'm arbitrarily just want to do $50,000 Roth conversion, right? So I call my IRA custodian. Hi, Mr. Schwab. Can you convert $50,000 to Roth and deposit it into my Roth account? Well, you have a choice. You can choose to pay that taxation with other money, just money I had in my bank account, or you can tell them to withhold the taxation on that. So they pull 50,000 out and they withhold, let's just say 10% because it's easy math. So they take $5,000, send it to the IRS and deposit 40 into my Roth account. Well, guess what? $5,000 was withdrawn there, and there is taxation on that. And by the way, a 10% penalty on that. Don't do a Roth conversion and withhold taxes if you're under 59 and a half. Okay. Now, over 59 and a half, still prefer to get as much into Roth as possible. So paying that tax with outside money is better, but there's no penalty. And I'd rather you do it than not do it, right? It's just getting a little less money in Roth. No big deal. Money is money. It's all money. It's all coming from the same place. It's all dollars. But the problem is you're adding a 10% penalty on that tax that you withdrew and sent to the IRS if you're under 59 and a half. So just make sure you understand you're going to have to pay the taxes on that Roth conversion with outside money. After 59 and a half, it's not really as much of a factor. You'll need the earnings before 5 years. Don't do Roth if you think you're going to need the earnings before that 5-year window's up. Regardless of 59 and a half, that 5-year window still applies for the earnings. The principal you can pull back out, but the earnings you can't touch. You're always will be and always will be. So you are and always will be and very low taxation, and IRA withdrawals cause taxation of Social Security. Meaning I know, again, I help all walks of life. I have plenty of people that live on very little income. And the idea of even paying 12% taxation is not really something that's going to happen in their life. Required distributions are not going to push you over into higher taxation. None of this stuff. You don't have a huge amount of money. You live on lower income. Roth conversions probably don't make a huge amount of sense. Roth savings, probably, I would do it. I would prefer to be in Roth savings if I'm in lower tax brackets. But if you're already retired and we're talking about the causation of taxation, then we do have to be very careful. So that's that disclaimer that there are some people that have no business doing Roth conversions in retirement, and it's because it creates taxation somewhere else. That's not good. Okay, it's usually the Social Security conversation. Okay, so hopefully that helps understand the picture of when to do it, when not to do it. The 10,000 feet that everybody should understand is IRA money. We put into traditional pre-tax IRA when we're in high taxation, and we proactively take it out when we're in low taxation. Roth money is the opposite. We proactively put money into Roth, whether it's conversions or contributions, at low taxation. Anytime we're in low taxation, Roth, Roth, Roth. Anytime we're in high taxation, IRA, IRA, IRA. We're putting in at high to IRA. We're putting in at low to Roth. Okay? And then taking out, want to take out at high taxation from Roth. We want to take out from IRA when we're in low taxation. So now, once we have money in Roth, how do we want to invest it? Well, make the most of your Roth, right? Some people want to be super aggressive. I hear it all the time, and I get it. But there needs to be some balance, and there needs some better understanding of this Roth money. Tax-free growth and income is the biggest benefit of Roth. Tax-free growth and income. Profits. Losses hurt most here, and people don't understand this. It's very simple. Of any type of money out there, losses hurt more in Roth. Here's a real easy way to look at this. If I save $100 in an IRA, okay, I have not paid taxes on that $100. I have $100 to invest. That's $100 in that investment. If I lose it, it's gone. It's $100. Okay? That seems real simple, right? I never had to pay taxes on it. My total dollars in is $100. And I lost that $100. Okay? So now, after-tax money. After-tax money. Here's the thing. I invest that $100 there. I had to pay taxes on that money. Right? And I lose that investment. I not only lose the investment, but I also don't really lose that tax because I get to write it off on my tax return. So I'm only losing the dollars that went in the investment, but I got to save the tax money because I got to write off the loss on my tax return. But with Roth, I had to pay taxes on that money. And I invested that money. I not only lost the money I invested, I lost the tax money too. You don't get to write off a loss in your Roth. There's nothing to write off in your IRA because you didn't pay taxes on it. But your after-tax money, you got to write off that loss and recoup that tax. Roth, you paid taxes on it. You don't get to recoup that tax. You lost it. If you're going to lose money anywhere, Roth is the least efficient place for you to lose money. And nobody goes into anything wanting to lose money. But it just pulls away. You can be growth-oriented, but it pulls away speculative-oriented. It pulls away the big, wild, swinging, crazy stuff. It pulls away private investing. Roth is not a good place for stuff like this. Losses hurt most here in most normal situations. Heirs, it's your favorite money. We all know that. Your kids want all Roth money if possible. That's great. Publicly traded REITs, MLPs, closed-end funds, bonds, annuities, etc. There are no tax consequences. So a lot of these can have bad tax connotations. Taxation that we don't like, K1s, things like that. If you've ever invested in any of these, you may understand and know the taxation that's on these that sometimes is not great. Interest is taxed at full tax rates. Well, when in your Roth, there's no taxation at all. You get a K1, you can throw it away. You don't need it if it's from an investment in your Roth. You certainly need it if it's in this non-qualified after-tax category. It's a pain in the butt. Don't put those K1 investments in there. Put it in your Roth or IRA. Okay? So, strategies. For the most part, I look at everybody in their own situations. And typically, we're looking for either growth for our heirs, growth for ourselves, or income. Everybody likes tax-free income. And one thing I tend to caution people about is this mindset of, well, that's the last money I'm supposed to touch. Well, if you're trying to grow it for your heirs, then sure, I'm fine with that. I want to preserve it for my heirs. I get it. But there's too many people that just have that mantra in their head, I'm not supposed to touch this. Let this compound and grow tax-free forever. Well, then you never take advantage of it. That's the hard part I have about this. I want you to take advantage of it. If it's for you, then you should use it to avoid higher taxation. You should use it to supplement with tax-free income. There's lots of wonderful things that you should be using it for. Not, I don't want to touch it. Got to stay away from that. So growth for your heirs, long-term investing outlook, diversified index funds, avoid speculative. It's that simple. Buy and hold. That's it. Let it run. Buy the S&P 500, buy the NASDAQ. You want to buy things in there that you can just let go, let run. Ups and downs, go, 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 let it go. All right? If you're growing it for yourself, that's perfectly fine. You should be doing that. Certainly in your working years, just like your retirement funds. Grow, grow, grow. So use those same index funds. Clean, easy way to get as direct market exposure. But as you approach retirement, increasing stability helps, meaning an environment you're withdrawing from needs more stability. You need a place to pull from so you're never pulling from losses. That's your number one no-no. Never withdraw from losses. Find something that didn't lose and pull from that one. That's what you want to do. That's why we need safe, stable investments as we approach retirement. We don't want 2008 to happen to us. We retire and our funds get cut in half. That's going to be a big problem. You want places you can pull from to allow the stock market to come back. So you need to have some safe, stable alternatives in there if you're going to be pulling from this part of your portfolio. Portfolio mix should allow withdrawals without exposure to losses. So grow, grow, grow until you approach, I always say it's time to start planning 5 years before you're going to retire. Really, that's when you want to start making adjustments and start kind of fleshing out a plan and knowing how you're going to fund retirement. Income. Maximize your use in retirement. Yield, yield, yield. Create a portfolio of yielding investments. MYGAs paying 5-6%. Closed-end funds paying 7-8%. MLPs, REITs, anything that you can do to create a high yielding portfolio with non-speculative risk, right? None of the private investing out there, things like that. Even some of these income annuities. If we're trying to maximize the use for ourselves, it's great. I love scraping the yield, the profit. It's coming out, coming out, coming out. We're funding our retirement. Then if we have an emergency later in life and it's going to push us way into higher tax brackets, we've got some principal we can pull from to avoid that. So the principal stays there for those, moments in life where maybe we have to buy a car, but our only place is IRA money we got to pull from, and we're already pushing into the 22. Maybe we want to pull it from our Roth. Maximize the use. Don't hide it away. Once you're retired, that's when you want to start maximizing the use, unless you're trying to preserve it for heirs and grow it for the heirs. Perfectly fine with that too. So retirement planning is not just investing your money. Be honest about where you are, where you want to be, set goals, educate yourself, develop a strategy, inspect what you expect, and consult with knowledgeable, unbiased advisors. A little hard. And honestly, most people know whether their advisor is attentive in doing what they should be doing, especially seeing a class like this. This is what should be happening, especially as you're transitioning or in retirement. This bullseye of IRA money needs to be addressed, and there needs to be planning around that. There are lots of advisors that'll just invest your money, but the advisors that focus on retirement, which is what I do, I prefer working with people that are either heading towards retirement or in retirement, because there's so much more I can do to make a difference. It's about trying to figure out how we can be as efficient as possible, but also what's the best way to maximize your retirement so you can go enjoy it and not worry about it. So important that this transition, it's something you got to work at and make sure you know what you're doing. So next month's class, February's topic is understanding taxation in retirement. And this is pretty much a two-part series. The February class is all about what you need to know about taxation as you're in retirement. The next part, March's class, is going to be how to use this information. It's the planning side of it, because again, there's no magic wand to fix everybody's situation. So we know how to make the right decisions year to year. That's what's so important. So taxation is so important on being as efficient as you can be. So our public Zoom schedule, we've got the first Tuesdays, second Saturdays, second Wednesdays, third Thursdays. And end of every month, except December's, end of every month, we do an open Q&A. Jump online, answer all the questions that you got for me. Happy to discuss anything related to the topic. So February and March, taxation. We're going to talk a lot about taxation. We're going to learn what we need to know and then how to use it. So important. And Roth kind of tiptoes into that. So YouTube, search for planning before investing. It's a great little channel, got lots of little videos on there. FPFEAZ.org is the nonprofit. You can also go to Your Investment Counselor or SES Web, and you can schedule a free meet and greet with me as well. Always happy to help on that side of it. And then also I've got a quick little questionnaire at the end of this. Certainly if you need anything from me, you can get a link to this video. You can request it in this little questionnaire. So stay on, or as soon as you click off of this, you'll have a questionnaire for you. And you can request anything you want from me. And even if you want to meet and greet, we'll reach out to you if you want us to. All right, everybody, I think that's all we got. If you're in person, you get this little questionnaire from us. But when you're online, you got the other questionnaire if you're watching live. All right, FPFEAZ.org is the nonprofit. Go visit it. Thanks for attending today. And again, hang on for the questions, just 3 or 4 questions, pretty quick and easy. All right, everybody, thanks again. We'll see you soon.